Today we're going to talk about what happened after I got done the psych tech job. But I kind of sort of want to explain that this is by no means coming from a person who has any idea on how to build wealth, how to navigate your job situation so that you're set up for retirement, so that you're good to go for life. This is like, I came from nothing and I didn't really know what to do with the education I had because it was so generalized, and then I had so much competition, and I stayed in a place that like didn't really help me get a better job. I accidentally got a degree in something that wasn't very applicable to making money fast or effectively. It was too general. So like, I think I made a lot of mistakes because I didn't know any better. And so if you're kind of like thinking as you are listening to me explain, oh yeah, that's kind of interesting that you did that, but like, where are you going to go from that? I was literally trying to do the best I can. I don't feel like you're judging me whatsoever, but I want you to know that had I been able to do things over differently from the very beginning, I would have done a lot differently. I probably would have gotten like a degree in some sort of science instead of an art. I probably would have tried to learn about how to invest in the stock market like way sooner than like almost 40. I would have tried to like learn about money, like how to make money and what is money. I know that like seems kind of stupid, but it's like crucial information once you kind of learn about how money works and how the tax laws are written so that people who make money keep money. It's like not a big conspiracy that like rich people are rich. They're rich because it's like easier to stay rich than it is to get rich. So I feel like I have to preface all this with like, this is not coming from someone who had a very good idea of what to do. I was just trying to do the best that I could. And I think that's important to understand, because I don't want you to like think that this was the best path forward. It totally was not. But I was 2007 graduating was like a real rough time to like be starting out. And I had to stay at the bakery for 2 years. And so I feel like that's kind of applicable to kind of now. I don't feel like our economy is as down in the toilet as 2007. For various reasons, but also I just feel like our society is like a little bit different. We're like a little bit more informed. Like I wasn't very informed on like what you could do and the possibilities of making money without a structured normal job are a little bit more, they've come a long way since 2007. So like what I'm saying is my options are different now, and so the economy is different now, and so you'll be able to hopefully understand that even if you are on a similar kind of like baseline as me, where like you didn't really learn about money, you don't have to like struggle as hard as I did in order to get sort of somewhere. I guess that's like my basic kind of like overall arching thing that I wanted to talk about today before we get into the video. Because I have friends that are like maybe 5 or 10 years younger than me, and they've done they've taken different strategies that I've taken, and they've gotten really far with their career. Granted, they have a ton of responsibility and their health is really shitty, and they're really stressed out. So obviously there are different pushes and pulls when it comes to like how far are you willing to sacrifice in order to make money. But I feel like talking about money and talking about not knowing how to make money is really important, and it's not like a secret, it's not like a taboo thing. I've always talked about money since I was in pursuit of like educating myself, and it's very hard to educate yourself when everybody is like telling you how to get rich quick and you don't know what you don't know. And so I just want to tell you that it took me a really long time to figure out sort of kind of who to listen to. And I'm not telling you to like listen to me, but who to listen to as far as like who has the best advice that is that is a much safer growth strategy and like actual strategy in general versus some of the other things that you could find that are really, really popular on TikTok, on YouTube, or on Instagram, any of those sorts of places. And there's like this learning curve of like who to understand that this is a fake guru, and while their ideas might seem nice, it's not actually applicable in your real life, and it's going to like give them more money and not you. It's like this whole big thing about how to figure out how to get your money in a stable kind of way, but then keep it, and but also not like sacrifice all of the rest of like your facets of life for that. So anyways, I guess we'll just get into it with that preface. Hopefully you kind of understood that about me already, but if you've never like watched me before and you're just kind of like coming into this, like I know I didn't do a good job when I was younger because I didn't know how to do a good job, and you can kind of see that with my choices. But I did learn a lot of stuff, and so I feel like it's important to kind of tell you like my failed strategies. Even if it's not what you would do now, you can at least see what stages I really progressed and what stages kind of like kept me not that great. And the choices in my life that are connected to those things. And what I mean by that is if I had left no options in order to just get this crummy job because I didn't improve my resume in any way, I didn't improve my skills in any way, I didn't move to a different part of the state and where like there was more opportunity, like all those things are my choices that led me to having to take the bottom of the barrel stuff. And you can improve upon all those other things before you connect yourself to a job suck. Basically, you can do other things that will improve your life before you invest time into a place. That is really the crux of the matter, basically. It's like assessing where you're good at, naturally good at, and then going for it. So I am naturally good at behind the scenes stuff and like logistical stuff and like seeing how things connect in a system, how things like are connected to people's wants and needs. I can't anticipate needs really well, but I just know what overall works kind of always. Like I miss trends. I'm not good at anticipating trends or jumping on board trends because trends are this very short little window. I know a lot about what people want always, but I don't really know a lot about the shifting trends, and so I miss those opportunities, and that's kind of like a blind side of like what I do, despite knowing a lot about seasonal things and blah blah blah. But that didn't really help me when it came time to understanding what to do with my life, when it was very crucial that I figure my life out financially. So right after I got done that job at like it comes that skill that I have of knowing what's quality kind of like innately, like always, like I'm drawn to quality, that helps me now in my current life, but that doesn't help me way back then. So what helped me way back then was being cornered. I was not a go-getter. I was not someone who had a lot of confidence. I was not someone, in fact, I think my boyfriend and I had broke up with, and we like actually, he moved out and he like moved in with somebody he cheated on me with, and or like moved away and like had a relationship with her like almost kind of like out of the blue. But clearly it wasn't out of the blue, it had been going on for a long time. But I was so wrapped up in like, you know, just keeping my life very consistent, that I didn't see the writing on the wall when it came in terms of, okay, things are really ending. And that means things are ending financially as well. And so that means that I myself need to step up as far as if I'm going to stay in this apartment, I need to make the full rent. I need to make all these other payments. I'm responsible for everything if I don't want to move back home. And who wants to move back home when like you're in your mid-20s or something? Like you're supposed to be kind of like flourishing in the world and doing your own thing. And I had not set myself up to be financially independent of him. In fact, I was very still dependent upon him toward the end. So even after he left me, he like helped me with my rent and that at that place that we lived at, simply because I had failed to see the writing on the wall, and I'd failed to set myself up for that possibility, and I backed myself into a corner because I just didn't accept reality. And reality was written all over everything. And like I'd said, we'd like broken up before, but I just never thought that, you know, I always just thought my life was going to be very consistent and I would just have a ho-hum life where I just kind of existed. And I didn't really strive for more. I just strived for like almost maintaining, but I wanted to build in areas that I felt comfortable, so I was still doing YouTube and I was having fun with that because it was like my own little thing. But it's not like YouTube paid my bills. The first year that I ever got paid on YouTube, I made like $10,000. That was back when like it was super easy to get a ton of subscribers and the beauty guru industry was like popping off. And I think this was before Adpocalypse, and I was just like, you know what? $10,000 is not a lot of money as far as like what you need to make in like a year, but to like be on your own and survive on your own. But if I'm like, I can kind of do this and then have like another job, like that's great. What I didn't understand was like times change and things change, and YouTube money is not stable. So after I decided to use YouTube, before we broke up, I decided to use YouTube as like this thing that I could build. And that's when like Adpocalypse kind of happened, and that's when I think I went from, you know, making $10,000 a year to maybe like 500 or 600. And so that possibility was like a very closed door for me. I didn't understand how to scale it or like actually do anything with it. Like I don't understand how to like sell my soul in order to get views, in order to create a consistent income. I was aware that you could make money that way, but I wasn't really aware of how to like do it. So I had to lean back on, okay, I am still on unemployment. My boyfriend has left me. I'm assuming responsibility for all these bills, and yet I have no real job, but I'm still looking, but it takes a long time to like look. And your life affects your ability to present yourself in a very good way. And it's not like I had just decided, you know, I wanted a better life. It was like I was blindsided and I was forced into this situation, and so that's a very different vibe than I chose this and I'm ready to like move up with myself. So I felt really down and out, and I think, you know, it like all those things, like of course I had like a crummy car at that point. Of course, like I had like nothing that really helped me. I had lots of things that hindered my success. And so what I ended up doing was running out of unemployment, and I had to go work at another grocery store. And I think I tried to start in a bakery because that's what I'd done, but it was like a grocery store in my town that wasn't that far. And so if my car didn't work, I could actually just like walk up the hill, kind of always. I was walking up hills, like literally. And go and do that. And so that's what like my plan was. That's what like the options of my life kind of afforded me. It wasn't like I had like a steady, stable anything. And so the choices that I had within a walking radius, if my car didn't work for whatever reason, was not great. And so I had skills that were, I needed to be hired right away, and I had skills that were like, okay, I'd already worked for this particular company, And so I just went up and I got hired, and it was like the most soul-crushing thing, because I was like, oh, I was past that. Right? Like, I was past that, but I wasn't. And I honestly don't know if I could have done any better job except for seeing the writing on the wall and reacting to it. But I was very dependent upon my life raft, which was him also making money, and that hindered my ability to change my life while I still had the life raft. It was like, oh, I'm just gonna be on this raft until it sinks, instead of like, oh, I'm gonna use this raft and then kind of like, you know, get off of it and go onto the island and build a bigger boat. You know what I mean? It was like, oh, I found this like life raft, I might as well just stay on it forever, and not do anything else. That's literally what I did. And so that was the wrong choice, but that was the choice that I made because that was the most comfortable. And that's really embarrassing to say, because that's obviously the stupidest choice. But I feel like that's relatable, because it's like not everybody is capable of making change before they have to. And it was just a tough time. It was a tough time mentally, because I was left and I was rejected and I felt not worthy because of all those things. And then you get interview after interview of not being told that you got the job. It's even worse when you're like one of the finalists or whatever, and then you have to be beat out by this other person. It's like compounding how you feel about being rejected by like the world and like in your personal life. And it's like, oh, how do I just like convince somebody that like I need this job, blah blah blah. And so it's very difficult to like do that. And so what I'm kind of trying to say is that if you see your life going like that, jump ship or develop skills, or, you know, like, I know it's hard, but like it's even worse once that's already happened. It's even worse. So don't do that, basically. I know it's real hard, and I know there's a tendency to just be hopeful, but don't be hopeful, at least with that. I'm a very optimistic person, almost to like this weird degree of fault. And if I can tell you anything about how to make your life better, like financially, it's like, be the one in control of the change if you can. So the tendency to stay on the life raft was a very big I want to say plot line. It was like this thing that I consistently did in like all areas of life. I was just scared to like do anything that was beyond what I could see in front of me. I didn't plan ahead. I didn't have the ability to see the connections to get to where I wanted to go. And I just felt roadblock after roadblock of like, it just felt like I was just doing things just to like not even survive. It was like below survival. I was like, oh my god, what am I doing? So I I ended up working at that grocery store, literally cutting fruit, because I think they didn't have like a position in the bakery until like maybe 1 or 2 months after I started. And they were like, okay, well, in order to get to the bakery, you kind of have to like work in produce for like a little while. And I was like, oh, Jesus. So I would just cut fruit and like cry to myself in the back room that like my boyfriend left me and my life was so shitty. And now here I was, a college graduate, cutting fruit in this cold freezer room. I was like, oh my god, like how did I end up here? But it's like very obvious of now looking back how I ended up there. But it wasn't obvious to me, and it wasn't like, it was such the best that I could do, but it wasn't the best that I could have done. But it was the best that I did. So anyways, I stayed there, but I continued to push forward. And I guess that's the best thing about starting real low again, is that you have the motivation to push forward. If you go from like not that great to like slightly better but not the best, you're not really all that motivated to change your in-between. You're not that motivated to go up towards, you know, where you want to actually go, because the in-between is just kind of good enough for now. But like my in-between was so far on the lowest totem pole of slightly fine that I was still pushing for that middle ground, and not even like my favorite thing that I could have done that would have given me a ton of money. So that was good that I was like still super unhappy. I was very motivated because I was super unhappy with what I was doing and getting paid, but I was paying my bills. But at the same time, I was like, okay, well, maybe I can do this, because he'd never left me before, and like I'd never been responsible for everything, and here I was like working kind of laborious job trying to like do it. And after it was kind of a little bit evened out, he stopped paying rent for me, and so I was basically left to like work kind of all the time, because getting paychecks from a grocery store that you're cutting fruit part-time, that doesn't really like equal a lot of money. So it kind of takes a lot to like make your rent, and I had really low rent. So there would be times where I don't know why, but I just couldn't make it work with like all of my stuff, and like I would get real behind on my rent despite trying my hardest. And I think it was at this point that I would get like eviction notices on my apartment, and that just meant like I was behind like maybe 1 or 2 months, no, maybe 1 month or something, and then they would give you eviction notice, at least in my state. And that's super embarrassing to tell the world that like at one point in your life you couldn't afford a $600 rent. That's how much it was. It was not even a lot, but I couldn't do it, and I was like a full adult, you know, and I was just like, my life really blows. It really blows bad. My dad would come down and he would visit me, and he would know that I would be having like a hard time, and like he'd leave like a $50 bill like in the fridge, because like I wasn't gonna like ask for money, but he just like saw that it was like not going well. But he was from an era where like things didn't go well a lot anyways, so he just kind of like work and do it, and he would leave me money. And once he saw that I was like not doing well, but I was trying, I don't know why it's so hard to talk about, because like I'm not my life isn't like that anymore, but it was like hard to go through, because you're like mentally trying to like transition from I can't do this without this other person to like, oh my god, I have to, and then like you're failing at what you're actually trying to do with your life. So it was like an intense time, and maybe I'm crying because of like I remember that feeling of like just shame. But I think it's important to talk about, because your life doesn't have to stay that way, but it just really blows when it is like that. I think I'm gonna like clean up my tears so you don't see me crying the whole time. And I didn't like intend to cry, like I'm sorry, but I know you don't really care, but I don't want you to like see me crying the whole time. So I'm gonna just take like a moment to like bounce some foundation on my cry tears and come back and tell you the rest of the story, because it gets better. Okay, I think we're a little bit more pulled together. So at that point, when my dad saw that I wasn't doing that well, but he was trying to help me, he also worked for my high school, my old high school, as a custodian. And my school district, I think all school districts did this at some point, they would get like state money or federal money or something, where they would get money specifically to upgrade their tech. And it would happen maybe once every 2 years or something like that. But at the time, the program that was happening was they didn't really have like a good recycling program or selling off or like whatever of like the old tech. So my dad, being the person that he was, like he used to be a very scrappy person, not like like physically or anything, but he would be very clever in how he would make extra money. And so previously in his older life, he'd taken scrap metal to junkyards and then make kind of like a lot of money with stuff that people just normally throw away. And so you're seeing like I got a lot of my skills of figuring out how to do things from things that people don't find value in from my dad. But at the time, they didn't have a plan for what to do with all of these. I think there was like maybe 40 or 50 old MacBooks, like 2006 MacBooks and iMacs, like real old as far as like what was coming available on the market. Like it was outdated, and they'd bought new ones to replace these old ones, and my dad got them. They've just like donated them to him because I think he just said that he could take care of them so they wouldn't have to pay for like to trash them or whatever. And I think this was before like junk got big and like all that, so it was like a very like, it was good symbiosis there. It was a good working relationship where he would take care of something that they didn't want anymore. And then I, being the person that I couldn't really afford a lot in school at college, like I feel like it seems like I'm getting on a tangent, but I'm telling you the story exactly as it needs to be told right now. This is very pertinent. So in college, I quickly learned that when you bring a book back that you bought at the bookstore for $100 and you bring it back at I feel like it was the end of the semester or the beginning of the next semester, there's a window of time where they have a buyback period. They would pay you like almost nothing for that book. And I learned really quickly that if you just put that book on eBay, or if you just put that book on Amazon, this was before renting textbooks was like really a big thing. I think that became a big thing by the end of my senior year, but I'd already learned how to like sell back my books and stuff. So like the proper way where you actually make money sometimes. So I would sell my books on eBay, and so I had an eBay account from like selling my books and like selling stuff, like, you know, that was just kind of whatever. It wasn't like I had this whole big selling process, and I'd had that from like when I was in college, and I had like good standing, and it I sold back my books and I would make enough money to make back the next semester. And so that book money just kept rolling, and I only had to really invest a ton like the first time that I bought books. So that was like my hack when I was in college. But I also like had to buy like one laptop, and it like lasted all 4 years, but I had to like learn how to like fix it. It was a Dell, and it was like the malware was like always getting like corrupt, like it was always messed up and getting viruses because I wasn't like very good with like protecting it. And so there was bits and parts that would fall apart because I was kind of like hard on my laptops. But I had to like learn how to like fix this, because at the time I couldn't just replace it. I had to like learn how to fix it. So that's how I learned how to buy and sell, through college textbooks. But also I learned how to fix computers because, or at least like PCs, because I couldn't really afford to like take it to a place and have it fixed. I kind of had to like learn about it. And all I did was like Google things and then try it. And my dad had always taught me, well, like, it's not the end of the world if you like open it up and break it. And so I had experience opening up the back of a computer that was a Dell and replacing different parts. I replaced, I think, the CD drive. I would replace obviously batteries. I would replace all kinds of things that were simple. I think I even replaced cracked LCD screens. That was a little bit more complex because you had to take apart more things, but like that's what I did before I got into this situation where my dad saw that I needed some money, and he all of a sudden got a whole bunch of MacBooks and Apple products that were donated to him from the school. And so anyways, I would fix these up. I would see what the parts were missing, and I would keep some laptops this is while I was cutting fruit and doing my things and trying to like make back the money that I needed for like not being evicted. So every single time I would get an eviction notice, I think I got like 3 or 4 of them, and every single time I got an eviction notice, I would quickly make back enough money so that I could pay for the rent and I could stop the eviction process, and then I'd get backed up again and blah 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 blah. So anyways, to get more money, I would sell these like Apple computers. I would learn what was wrong with them, keep some computers as like feeder computers to like, okay, this one's super fucked, so I would take the good parts and use it to like fix the other ones that needed the parts, so I would only have like 1 messed up one and like 7 fixed ones. And I would just do that, and whatever parts were like still parted outable, I would sell like the airport cards. If it was like a total dud computer, you know, I would just take out little things and I would sell them individually to like make the most out of every single computer that I could. But I usually tried to sell it as like a single working unit, and I would sell maybe 4 a month. For like between $200 and then like $100, because they were still outdated. They worked, but they were old. Like there was not a big market for them. And so yeah, so like I got into selling computer parts, but it was like a real tough thing because I had to like teach myself how to do it. I didn't really know how to do it, but there was motivation to do it and there was curiosity to do it, and it kind of fit my skills that I had. And that was where like I started to learn how to do things for myself without people giving me like an opportunity. Like, yeah, my dad gave me an opportunity, but no one like kind of like taught me how to do it. And I felt like that worked a lot better than going to work to cut the fruit and then having somebody kind of like see that I'm really great at cutting fruit and giving me more money for like a raise or something. In fact, that actually didn't happen. Better I worked at the grocery store, the more that I was kind of stifled. So I think I worked there for like not that long, and within that time period I really kind of got more efficient at my job, more so than my trainer who trained me how to do it. And my boss had seen that I was like better than my trainer, and he was like, we're going to participate in this cut fruit selling contest that all the regional, maybe it was even national, I don't know, but it was a lot of stores in my area were participating in, meaning like New England. I knew it was like bigger than just the ones in my state, but it was like, okay, it doesn't matter. I was competing against a bunch of people, and I think I got I cut enough fruit fast enough and like had them replace it, and then people in the store would like see that it was cut fresh and they would buy it. And it was summertime, and because of like my consistency on doing it fast, and that was my only job during the time that I was there, I was able to help them make the sales that they needed in that cut fruit category in order to win first place. And I thought that that was like super cool, because like maybe I'd give some kickback or something, because like I was literally the one that helped them do that. And that's when I learned that the prize was an iPad, like not like an old iPad that I was like working on at nighttime. Like it was like a fresh new iPad, but it wasn't an iPad for me. It went to the manager of the department, and he gave it to his son. And I remember him coming up to me, and he was just like, I think he said like thanks, but like I didn't get like a bonus, I didn't get like a raise, I didn't get anything. He was just like, thanks. It's like, you're welcome. I think I even got yelled at for not cutting fruit, like talked to, because it was during that time where the fruit cutting contest was like going on, and he was in the running for the iPad, and he saw that it was like in his grasp. And he was like a good person, but like I was just like, oh my god. But anyways, he saw that it was in his grasp, and that day or whatever, when he came in, I was already there, but I was like putting stuff out on the floor, like helping the produce people like fill the missing produce that people had bought, like helping them like put stuff out on the floor. And he's like, what are you doing? I was like, what do you mean? And he's like, I told you to concentrate on the fruit cutting. Like, there was only like one other person like to like put the stuff out on the floor. And I didn't expect to get talked to for like prioritizing the main like department over like this fruit cutting thing. But he's like, no, that's what you do now. I was like, oh, okay. So I went back to the fruit cutting because I think somebody had told me to like help. Like, it was very mixed signally there, which is quite normal for lower skill, lower pay kind of jobs. They're not run the best, as you would probably imagine. So anyways, it wasn't anything abnormal going on, but it wasn't wonderful. Yeah, so like working harder didn't get me anywhere in that type of situation. So there was still obviously motivation to like not work there. So I was still putting out my resume, I was fixing things up on the side, and I was building up my eBay account. Not that I ever knew that I would need it eventually, but like I was doing that like years before I even eventually transitioned to just selling stuff online. So eventually I got interviewed for a travel company that was in a ski town, and this was kind of nice because I worked very close to the ski town, but like the ski town was kind of like, I don't know, more like it was like fancier, and everybody you knew kind of like around would know of that place that I worked at. It would like add a little bit of prestige to my kind of crummy resume where I'd worked in like very connotationally awful positions. Like, working as a psych tech did not help me whatsoever get a job within the state system. I tried that route before I tried like the cutting fruit thing, and before my unemployment ran out, and they would interview me and they were just like, sorry. So even within that system, it was like not wonderful. So I didn't know that until I knew that. So that's what I was telling you about in my previous job, that just because you think something is going to be a building block does not mean it actually will be. And I learned that very quickly. So how can you prevent that? I'm not really too sure, because that seems like a hindsight thing. But anyways, I'm sure that you can figure out how to prevent yourself from being pigeonholed into one specifically bad section of a category of job. I'm sure prison guards had like kind of like similar experience. I don't feel like prison guards are like very well respected by like almost anybody, but they're needed, and you have like a ton of skills when you are somebody who works in the prison. But like I could see how somebody who works in a prison would not transition well to somewhere where it's way more chill. Like if you ran like a meditative yoga like spa or something, like two different opposite things. So anyways, I'd finally like been interviewed for this, it was product, and it was like helping in the back end of like this travel company to like maintain their data and to like help the sales people build trips kind of automatically, where they wouldn't have to do it manually. And what they were doing before was they were like cutting and pasting from like different Word documents and creating an itinerary for people who were potentially going to be clients. So they would be like, on day 1 this is what you do, on day 2, but they were cutting and pasting from all these different like things. But the owner of this travel company had just barely invested in this pretty intense software, which people didn't really know how to use that well at that place. But they were populating the little boxes that eventually turned out a travel itinerary. And it was kind of like a cool software. And I did well on my interview, and I did well on my practice test. They like give you a practice test to see if you can like deal with software well. And like I had like an innate ability to kind of understand radio buttons and stuff like that from just understanding how to follow along on how to fix software when I was troubleshooting my own computer stuff. And it's not like I even knew how to like do it, but it's just like seemed simple and kind of, well, this is what the program writing usually looks like when it's in software, so I'm just gonna assume that this is kind of similar. So anyways, I had a background in that, but like not like trained up like formally or anything. But anyways, I did well enough that I got hired as an assistant, and I was super excited to like leave the produce cutting job. And I think I was like the most ecstatic I'd ever been, because like I got this job on my own without connections, but also using skills that I'd taught myself, like my little computer kind of skills. I taught myself how to do that. Like I didn't go to school for that, and so I was like a little bit more proud of myself than I'd done with like getting the psych tech job, which is basically I got that because of my background in psychology from school. And so this was something that I could be like a little bit more proud of, because I made the choices. Like yes, I chose to study psychology, but like a ton of people studied psychology, and it wasn't like a, I don't know, I didn't really graduate super proud, I guess is what I'm trying to say, because I didn't think it was like, it's not like you're graduating with a degree in genetics or something that's like actually super hard. There was this, if you were pre-med, you'd have to take Chem 31, and like I didn't have to take any of those because it was an art, not a science. So like I was more proud of this one moment of getting hired for this travel company. I don't even really like to travel because I'd never had money to travel, so I never really got like the big travel bug. So people who love to travel usually have options with their life, like the time and the space and the funds to do that, like to take off time and to, you know, I didn't have any of those ever, and so I didn't really want to travel. That was not why I was trying to like work there. I was trying to work there because it was kind of back of the house sort of situation. It wasn't in sales. It was in a comfortable spot where I could deal with the software, but it was a small enough company. I think it was like 8 or so people that worked there, that it wasn't super corporate. And it was just in a nicer town where more people would understand that I worked for like a nicer company if it was in this town versus where I'd been. And so I was like really proud of myself at this moment. Like I'd done better. I'd stopped getting those eviction notices. I'd sold enough stuff online where I kind of like, not was ahead, but I was kind of doing all right. And I don't think I was dating, but I was like trying to like go to the gym more, because that's what you do when you get kind of rejected and then you want to enter the dating world again. You try to look better because you're trying to feel better. And so I was like doing all these little things that like helped me have more confidence in my abilities, and I was like building it by like doing all these in the background things. It's not like when I was going to the gym I was getting this confidence. The confidence was coming from seeing my abilities that I'd chosen very recently to add to my life, and it was impacting my life in a positive way. Like I learned these skills and it got me a better job than I had before. I, you know, was finally able to pay my rent without having to hide under my bed while my landlord came in to ask where the rent was. You know what I mean? Like that was literally my life, and it was awful. And my dad didn't have to like hide 50s in my fridge anymore. Like I wasn't rolling in it, and I did get paid better, but the transition was that I had more confidence now, like a tiny bit more confidence. And once you have that, you can work upon that. Instead of trying to do catch up on your confidence, you're just kind of like, you have a good baseline to work with now. Those things had still happened to me, and so they still existed in my mind's eye, that like I was you know, rejected and unhireable, and like I'd done the wrong things with my life, and I still had this debt from school. It wasn't a lot, but I still had it. and I was like not paying it because I just couldn't. I couldn't even pay my rent previously. And so like it was a lot on my shoulders, but it was like I was actually doing work towards getting out of it. And it was slowly starting to become a little bit better. And that's when I made friends at my work. I made some of the best friends that I'd had in like a work situation, because I quickly learned that the boss of that place, like the two people that own that place, were like kind of like the idiotic bosses that were like not as smart as you, but they had had more money than you, like and they built a business and they were your boss. Like it wasn't because, I think that's where I learned like you don't have to be a genius in order to do something that you can control what happens with your life. I didn't know. I just thought that like people who ran businesses were like real smart, extraordinarily smart. And what I learned from that particular situation was that they just set themselves up for a different sort of life and chose differently and put their resources towards something that they believed in. And it didn't mean that they knew how to do it. That just meant that they made like a company and then they had to hire people, and then that doesn't mean that they knew how to like run the company or get the sales or like whatever. But so that didn't mean that they were smarter than me. That just meant that they'd done different things. And I think that just kind of like in the back of my mind, that just meant like there was nothing super special about them versus me, except for they knew that that was an option versus what I knew as an option. I just knew that you should go get a job. I didn't know that you could do whatever you wanted with your life. You just had to accept the consequences of that, you know? So they were really shitty at being like a well-run company. They were real bad at it. To the point where like everybody was traumatized that worked for them. And that's how we became better friends. So that was really fun, but it was also not a fun experience working for them, because they were not smart, but also they had expectations of making the sales, but they were not smart. And so their ways, their understanding of how everything worked, including the software that I had to work with, was very like limited. They were good enough so that they made a company. I'm not saying that they, you know, they didn't have success, but it was very obvious that they had like a lot of limited ability to scale this company with their current knowledge of how to run things. So it was very hard to work for people like that, because their vision was always changing and they were breathing down your throat a lot. And it's very stressful to work in a certain place like that when the money is not coming in. It's super easy to work for any type of place when it's good times, but when the leaders don't have the skills in order to carry the business through bad times because they just kind of sucked, then that's going to fall on the employees, obviously. It's going to be a real hard, it's going to be kind of a shit show for a little while. So anyways, they were micromanagers, but the harder that it got in the economy, and like for them to like make the same amount of money they used to make when the economy was better, travel is one of those first areas that gets hit when like people are holding back. So they had a lot of turnover, and because of that, the vibe in the office wasn't all that wonderful. But like despite this, I excelled at the software. I was the product assistant for a while, and then my manager actually got a different job and I became the product manager, because there was no one else. Like there was like a department of 2 or 3 at that point in product, and I'd been there the most senior beyond in product, beyond my manager who was the same age as me. And I loved him. He was great. But then he got a different job and I took his job ipso facto, because I was the only one who could take it. But it offered me like this really important time in my life where like someone was giving me more opportunity than I thought was worthy of my skills. Like I didn't think I was ready to like be a leader in a department where I like ran meetings about my department and I like trained people up in like sales on how to use this software, and I was the point person for talking to the company that made the software. And I would have to have enough like wherewithal in order to like explain what was going on our end that wasn't working within the software, and it's like very like technical. And here I am, like I studied psychology in the art section, right? Like that wasn't really my skill that I trained for, but it like became that way because I was just good at it. And I'm an introvert, and I'm kind of like quiet. Like I'm not really very good at commanding attention and authority and like reprimanding people and like making sure that they're on track and blah blah blah. So I didn't think I was going to be good at it, but I was like, okay, like I will accept this new position. Number one, because there was nobody literally at all that could be the manager besides me. It was now like department of like 2, me and this other person that got hired after me, and I just became their manager. You have this weird sense of like, what is this called? I have a book about it. I was just listening to this book the other day. Imposter syndrome, that's what it is. So I had like imposter syndrome because I was like, I always saw myself as like the supporter. I always saw myself as the beta, and I was given the opportunity to be kind of a little bit more the alpha in this company, and because they believed in me, but also I didn't, you know, they didn't have anybody else to ask. So it was great. It was great for me because I flourished, and I just like figured out that I could do this. I was really good at it actually. And it was really interesting to see that they respected me more once I had more responsibilities. They didn't treat me like a peon. They actually like listened to what I was saying when I was trying to like explain to them that their ideas were a little bit ridiculous about the expectations that they were putting upon us, because that really usually happens when the people giving you the orders have no idea how it actually is to be worked out by you. So I would explain to them how certain things worked, and then they would understand that their ideas were unrealistic, and it just became like better. It wasn't the best, but it became better, and it was like really interesting to me because somebody believed in me beyond what I believed in myself, and then I believed in myself to the baseline of where they believed in me. And then it was really exciting for me because I took my skills from YouTube of presenting myself in a way that other people can understand what I'm saying, and like logically, and I like thinking off the top of your feet. I think this is why I'm good at like phone calls with strangers on like Tinder apps or whatever, because if you have the ability to think on your feet, not just like by having to like text somebody and like come up with like new interesting things all day, these videos that I make, they're off the cuff, and I don't like sit there with like show notes or anything. I just have a general idea of what I'm going to talk about, and then it just kind of unfolds, and my brain is trained that way to like sort it out for somebody else who doesn't really know what I'm talking about to understand what I'm saying, and hopefully in a entertaining way. But my skills on YouTube that I'd still kept doing, by the way, throughout this whole process, cut fruit, did YouTube for fun, built a little community or whatever where I interacted with you guys, and then sold my stuff on eBay, and then transitioned to this job, and then the only thing that I changed really was I stopped cutting fruit. But everything else was good. So like the YouTube skills helped me run the meetings where I had to run the meetings for like the remote people, I was really scared about having to like be on Skype or be on like whatever their software was at the time, where you have to record yourself. But like I was really apprehensive about it, because I just thought that it would be like how I used to be when I was giving like a book report or something in front of class. I would get so nervous that I would like do really ridiculous things because I was so anxious and nervous. Like I had earrings and I would take one earring out and like stand there with like one dangly earring and like fiddle with the earring while I was like giving the book report. It's so distracting. So I was like that, and I would just have like hives up my neck, and it was just, I had very bad public speaking abilities. But I feel like YouTube is like this bridge where I could do it in the comfort of my own home. Nobody is staring at me, but also I know that eventually someone will be staring at me through like a phone or like whatever. So it's kind of like a bite-sized way of me getting like this public speaking a little bit more in control, where I don't screw up completely. So like YouTube helped me deal with this other thing in my real job that I was apprehensive about, and then I just got better at it. And that's how I took those skills in order to A, get that job, and then B, keep that job. So like the skills that I didn't go to school for, I wasn't taught social media in school. I did these things for fun, or I did these things because they just came naturally to me, because it was just in my own time, I chose them. And the stuff about psychology, I feel like that's really relatable to like anything, but it didn't really get my foot in the door really at all anywhere. Like I think I was hired at the travel place for the product because I demonstrated that I had thinking ability and I could like graduate from something. But it like wasn't really, I didn't really have a ton of office work. The work that I did at my college, the work study, was enough office experience that it related to working in an office like at the travel company. But like I had zero knowledge of the travel industry. Like I didn't even care about it, like I told you. And I just learned off the cuff like what you should do. So it was a better paying job. I had more friends that were closer knit, that weren't involved in my life before my breakup. All my other friends were like that, where I developed friendships with the person that I was with. And so these were my new friends. These were like, and we were tight friends, and this was my new skills that I was getting. And this was the way in which my life was changing, where I was leveling up some skills in the background. I was doing my things that kept me creative, but I was also like doing it more on my own, where I didn't think that any of this was really possible. I didn't foresee any of this. This wasn't on the path that I had chosen for myself. My path that I had chosen for myself was like be with this one person forever and just do what I needed to do with him. Like I didn't see a separate life whatsoever, and so building the separate life was really scary for me, and I sucked at it in the beginning, and I think I still kind of suck at it, but I'm a lot better than I used to be at it. But it takes some like skill building, and you can't like expect success right off the bat. And so if you're in a situation where you have to find yourself reinventing yourself, I hope that it goes way smoother than I had. But if it doesn't, just know that you have somebody that, you know, is on the other side kind of right now, that was in your position and kind of probably screwed it up more. And like, it's okay, it's gonna be okay, and you can do what you want to do. You just have to do what you don't want to do for a little while, and until you can figure out how to make the bridge to get there. So anyways, I'm gonna end this by saying that job was really great for me. It was great for me in so many ways, but it was not great for me in so many ways. So I ended that job. I sought out a different job that I thought was going to be so much better. It was more professional. It was at a corporate position. And again, this was one of those times where I'd picked I'd picked this corporate job to transition to because it was one of the bigger ones in my state, and a lot of people had built themselves up through that particular job. It was like a industry, it's in the health insurance industry, and so it was in an industry that I thought was like it was never going to die. You're always going to need insurance, you're always going to need healthcare, you're always going to need all this kind of stuff. And so this was coming from a person who couldn't find a job during like the Iraq war, right? Like, so that was my thinking, like, try to get into an industry that has a little bit of growth, but also is going to kind of like stay there. So I'd previously worked at a psych hospital. People are always going to be not well, right? I worked at a grocery store. People are always going to need food. And then I worked at a travel place, and I quickly saw that not everybody was going to, you know, have enough money to travel, but you know, there's enough desire for it that most people do or want to. So that was like I saw that like this place was like, I was outgrowing my skills there. Like, it was fun to like come up from being an assistant to like the manager and then holding that level of status for like a little while. But eventually like all of that novelty wore off, and I developed enough skills where I thought that I could transition better to something more corporate and more professional. But I was wrong. So anyways, I'm gonna end this video. I thought I talked a lot, and I'm super sorry that I talked a lot, but I thought that this transition, like, I could have left out the whole, you know, eviction kind of thing, but like, it's really important to like see that I didn't just, out of the thin air, I just, you know, decided to do this. Like, I wanted to really kind of talk about what brought me to what things and why, and what my headspace was, and what my options I thought were, and blah blah blah. So that's how we really got into the weeds here with this one. Even though I didn't really talk a lot about this travel job, you just learned that I transitioned from back of the house to more front of the house kind of thing. I wasn't in sales, but it was an area where someone like believed in me because they kind of had to, but then they eventually did just believe in me despite the fact that they could have hired somebody out from the outside and like replaced me at any time. So it was interesting to see that somebody believed in me beyond what I believed in myself for, and that I rose to the occasion, and which I didn't think I could do. And then I surpassed that, and I got hired for this very low entry level position in the health insurance industry. And next week I'll tell you about why that didn't work out. And hopefully you've enjoyed this, and if you have any questions, leave them down in the comments below. I'm sorry I cried awkwardly. I don't feel like it was awkward, but maybe like watching it is awkward. Like, I always have like somewhat of a second degree awkwardness when I watch people cry, so I'm really sorry about that. And maybe I'll try to like edit it real good so it's not so weird. But I like to keep things like very like real. And hopefully this was helpful, and I will see you guys next week.